Okay, this is part 2 of Federalist 44. Please make sure you take a look at part 1. I'm going to start reading it. A fifth class of provisions in favor of the federal authority consists of the following restrictions on the authority of the several states. As I said, the fifth class, the fifth category, is actually what states cannot do. Up to now, we've been talking about what the federal government can do. This is the one provision that talks about what the state governments cannot do. 1. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver a legal tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any titles of nobility. The titles of nobility guarantees that the state governments are republican in form. Okay? And when he says emit bills of credit, again, like I said in part 1, they were issuing paper money that was becoming worthless and ruining the reputation of their government in front of their own people's eyes, as well as foreigners who had lent them money. Coin money, which is minting money, state governments are not going to do that. And pass any bill of attainder. This bill of attainder was a law from the feudal times. We talked about it a little bit in the last section. Ex post facto law. In other words, passing laws now that making things that were not illegal in the past illegal. He says you cannot do that. If you pass a law now, it has to apply from today on, not from yesterday or today to the past. And also grant letters of marque and reprisal. Marque, the word marque, M-A-R-Q-U, it comes from a German origin, or actually it's French, but it comes from German origin, which talks about borders, okay? Back in that time, in the time of, 2-3 centuries ago, different governments would give private owners of ships, private sailors, and private captains that would be called privateers. They would give them an official letter saying, you can go and take our enemy's ships and bring them back here for part of it for you. And you would actually even be able to maybe cross a border. That's why they're called letters of marque. You cross the border sometimes to get somebody else's ship. And reprisal, that's in case you've been attacked or injured, you can do something about it. That's why a lot of times they say letters of marque and reprisal. It says states cannot do that unless only the federal government will have the authority. Why? Because if you have 13 states do different letters of marque and reprisal, coin different, mint different coins and stuff like that, it'll be just chaos. You won't have stability that way. Okay, I'll continue reading. The prohibition against treaties, alliances, and confederation makes a part of the existing Articles of Union, and for reasons which need no explanation, is copied into the new Constitution. The prohibitions of letters of marque is another part of the old system, but is somewhat extended in the new. According to the former, letters of marque could be granted by the states after a declaration of war. According to the latter, in other words, according to the new Constitution, these licenses must be obtained as well during war as previous to its declaration from the government of the United States. This alteration is fully justified by the advantage of uniformity in all points which relate to foreign powers, and of immediate responsibility to the nation in all those for whose conduct the nation itself is to be responsible. The right of coining money, which is here taken from the states, was left in their hands by the Confederation as a concurrent right with that of Congress, under an exception in favor of the exclusive right of Congress to regulate the alloy and value. In this instance, in this new Constitution also, the new provision is an improvement on the old, whilst the alloy and value depended on the general authority. A right of coinage in the particular states could have no other effect than to multiply expensive mints and diversify the forms and weights of the circulating pieces. In other words, if you have different coins minted, also their weight changes, and you cannot trust what's happening across the border that way. You can't trust to have a uniform mint, the uniform value, the uniform purity. The latter inconveniency defeats one purpose for which the power was originally submitted to the federal head, and as far as the former might prevent an inconvenient remittance of gold and silver to the central mint for recoinage, the end can be as well attained by local mints established under the general authority. So as you can see, he says, some of these were already in our old Constitution, but when we made a provision in our new Constitution, when we rewrote it, we even made it better. In the next paragraph, the extension of the prohibition to bills of credit must give pleasure to every citizen in proportion to his love of justice and his knowledge of the true springs of public prosperity. The loss which America has sustained since the peace, from the pestilent effect of paper money on the necessary confidence between man and man, on the necessary confidence in the public councils, on the industry and morals of the people, and on the character of Republican government, constitutes an enormous debt against the states chargeable with this unadvised measure, which must long remain unsatisfied. Or rather, an accumulation of guilt which can be expiated no otherwise than by voluntary sacrifice on the altar of justice of the power which has been the instrument of it. So he says these paper monies, this cheap paper money that states are printing, making people not have confidence in other people that they make transactions with. And it's going to ruin us. Notice here he uses the word justice. Just keep in mind that at that time, a lot of times when they would talk about justice, it's not only the sense that we are talking about it today, it also had a lot of reference to contracts, money, trust in contracts. So it was people not violating contracts. So keep that in mind. You were just, if not just in the sense we use it today, but if you kept up your end of the bargain in any financial transaction or anything like that. In addition to these persuasive considerations, it may be observed that the same reasons which show the necessity of denying the states the power of regulating coin prove with equal force that they ought not to be at liberty to substitute a paper medium in the place of coin. Had every state a right to regulate the value of its coin, there might be as many different currencies as states, and thus the intercourse among them would be impeded. Retrospective alterations in its value might be made, and thus the citizen of other states be injured, and animosities be kindled among the states themselves. The subjects of foreign powers might suffer from the same cause, and hence the union be discredited and embroiled by the indiscretions of a single member. No one of these mischiefs is less incident to power in the states to emit paper money than to coin gold or silver. The power to make anything but gold and silver a tender in payment of debts is withdrawn from the states on the same principle with that of issuing a paper currency. So states can only pay their debts, people in the states can pay their debts with gold and silver, nothing else. No paper money, none of these cheap coins that they were minting. He says, because we want trust. We want trust between people in the same state, people trusting their neighbors in other states, and this way we can have trade. This way we won't have animosity and distrust between the people of the states as well as the states themselves. So this is extremely important.